Hey everybody, we just entered the 40 days of rain between the Draconid meteor shower and the Leonid meteor shower. This does happen every year, but it's a significant watch, especially in 2016, for several reasons. First, the Draconid meteor shower is described in Revelation chapter 12 as part of a very important heavenly sign that occurred along with the setting up of the idol of terror in 2012. Both the setting up of the idol of terror and the celestial sign on the true appointed time of trumpets in 2012 were extremely important events in Bible prophecy. The idol of terror, otherwise known as the abomination of desolation, is a major event that all Christians are still watching for. They missed it. It occurred along with the celestial sign on the true Feast of Trumpets 4 years ago in 2012. The second part of that celestial sign was the dragon casting the stars to the earth. We know this represents the falling of the stone from heaven, the meteorite that will destroy Babylon the Great and usher in the final 3.5 years of the beast's rule in the prophecy. The sign is the warning about the meteorite, and it occurred 4 years ago. In the prophecy, arguably one of the most important things Jesus said to watch for was that event. And he also said the fig tree would be cut down after 4 years. So because of the fulfillment of Jesus' warning, the setting up of the idol, and the sign of the trumpets occurring in the fall of 2012, 4 years later in the fall of 2016 is a huge watch for the fulfillment of that warning. The second reason we just entered a huge watch is that the confirming of the covenant in Daniel 9 also occurred on the Draconid meteor shower in 2009. The prophecy tells us that the city will be destroyed by a flood, again referencing the millstone hitting the sea of Babylon in the midst of 7 years after the confirming of the covenant. And again, that was the worldwide covenant put forth by the 8th king, the beast, which was confirmed and promoted by the man that the world called Messiah. His official award for that covenant was announced on October 9th, 2009 during the Draconid meteor shower, and he physically received the award December 10th, 2009. So we just entered the time period this fall that represents the end of 7 years from the confirming of that covenant. The third reason we just entered a huge watch is the Bible prophecy mentions 40 days of rain in the story of Noah. The 40 days in Bible prophecy are very important. They show up again in the story of Jonah, the prophet who warned of the destruction of Nineveh. The 40 days also are described in the story of Moses on the mountain and in the story of Jesus in the wilderness. The 40 days of rain in the story of Noah represents the destruction of a very bad world and the saving of the minority who are not in support of that evil world. It represents a flood, which is what both the prophets Jeremiah and Daniel predicted would occur at the destruction of Babylon the Great. Daniel told us the flood would occur in the midst of a 7-year period after 67 Shabuah from a commandment to restore Jerusalem until a man called Messiah. Jeremiah told us Babylon would be covered by the waves after 70 years have been accomplished of the nations around Judah serving Babylon, who sits on the beast, which is the 8th king. The flood, we're told in the book of Revelation, is caused by the millstone from heaven hitting the sea of Babylon. Revelation tells us that Babylon is the great city, and the great city is also spiritually called Egypt and Sodom. We're told Sodom was destroyed by fire and brimstone that rained down from heaven. And Jesus told us that fire and brimstone would also rain down from heaven in the end time, in the day the Son of Man is revealed. Notice Jesus made sure to mention both Noah's flood and the rain of fire and brimstone on Sodom in the same statement. Both, he said, will occur in the end time when the stars fall from heaven, when the dragon casts the stars to the earth with its tail. So the flood is associated with the rain in Bible prophecy. And the rain is actually a rain of fire and brimstone. It is a rain of fire from a meteor that will hit the sea, creating a flood. The rain in the prophecy is also associated with 40 days. So the Bible tells us it is associated with a meteor shower, and it tells us it is also associated with a 40-day period. The only meteor showers throughout the whole year that are separated by a 40-day period are the Draconids and the Leonids. There are exactly 40 days between the Draconid meteor shower in October to the Leonid meteor shower in November. So could this be the time period that the prophecy was referencing? The 40 days of meteor rain in October and November. The fourth reason is that these meteor showers are also alluded to in predictive programming movies, such as the movie Back to the Future, which cites the date of the Taurid meteor shower, November 12th, which is within the 40 days of rain. It also cited the falling of the Twin Towers at 9/11 and the rising of the One World Trade Center on 1/33, which is a reference to the Leonid meteor shower, which occurs on a cycle of 33 years. Back to the Future also cited the date of the Orionid meteor shower, October 21st, which is also within the 40 days of rain. And it alluded to the Draconid meteor shower with the citing of its September 2nd date. In the year that the movie Back to the Future was released, on September 2nd, 1985, the wreckage of the Titanic was discovered in the Atlantic Ocean. The movie then cited the date September 2nd in Back to the Future Part 3. In October of 1985, the space shuttle Atlantis was launched for the first time during the Draconid meteor shower. The name Atlantis is a reference to an ancient continent that allegedly sank under the sea in the Atlantic Ocean. Then another predictive programming movie, Deep Impact, referenced the space shuttle Atlantis again, this time using it as the force that will save us from a comet that is heading straight for Earth. In this movie, the comet hits Earth during the presidency of an African-American man, and the comet hits the Atlantic Ocean, creating a giant tidal wave. Morgan Freeman played the president in that movie, and in real life, his daughter died at the age of 33 on the exact date cited in the movie, August 16th. Again, her age of 33 connects back to the cycle of the Leonid meteor shower, which is linked to the Draconid meteor shower through the 40 days of rain. The movie Armageddon also referenced the space shuttle Atlantis, and in Bible prophecy, the Battle of Armageddon occurs after a giant meteorite hits the sea. In July of 2011, the space shuttle Atlantis was launched for its final mission, which was its 33rd mission. The space shuttle Atlantis was launched a total of 33 times, beginning on the Draconid meteor shower of 1985, when Back to the Future was released. Again, 33 being the number of years in the Leonids cycle, and the Leonids being exactly 40 days after the Draconids. I hope you can see how there's no possible way these connections are merely coincidence. For a closer look at these charts, you can go to my website, indigoflower.net. But finally, there are two more reasons we just entered an unprecedented watch. In 2011, a series of dream fulfillments began, which continued for about 3 to 4 years, establishing a yearly watch period from September to December. Nothing of extreme significance occurred in 2015 on this watch, but for some reason, the UN yearly session occurred on the watch every single year since the fulfillments began in 2011. In 2016, a replica of the Arch of Palmyra was set up in New York City during the UN 71st session, which again connects back to the Bible prophecy of the meteor. The original Arch of Palmyra was set up by the Roman Emperor Septimus Severus, who was a particularly severe persecutor of Christians and Jews. In Bible prophecy, the final time of trouble, we're told, will start after a meteorite hits the earth and allows the eighth king, the beast, the UN, to rise to world power and persecute the Christians who are still here after the escape. The arch was originally the entrance to the Temple of Bel, which is also known as the Temple of Baal, one of the false gods the Israelites worshipped. Baal is associated with the setting up of abominations and the persecution that occurred under the king of Babylon. The prophecy tells us this will be repeated in the end time. By the way, the Valley of Hinnom is associated with the prophecy concerning hell, which the Bible tells us is the lake of fire, which is the burning on the earth that will be caused by the falling of the meteorite. That also connects to the prophecy concerning the Valley of Dry Bones in Ezekiel, which we're told will be brought back to life. The whole thing almost seems to describe going back in time, and I discussed that in the video on hell, which is in the playlist that will be linked at the end of this video. The point for now is that Baal is not only associated with abominations in Babylon, it is also associated with fire and brimstone, which is the meteorite that destroys Babylon in the end time. So on September 19th this year, they set up that Arch of Baal in New York City during the 71st session of the 8th and final king, the United Nations. The Arch of Baal in the prophecy symbolizes fire and brimstone, which is the millstone that hits the sea, which is associated with the 40 days of rain and a flood. So that is another reason this 40 days of rain that we just entered is such an important watch in 2016. For more information, please watch the playlist linked here or go to my website, indigoflower.net. Thank you so much to those who make this work possible. If you liked this video, please consider providing support. I hope you're doing well, and I will talk to you next week.